After the escape failed, I was given a drug by Ashton. I lost sensation in my legs and couldn't stand. In order to save me, my first love of 3 years knelt on the ground in a state of distress on a rainy day and shouted, "Liam is a despicable dog." Liam is his name. Held in Ashton's arms, I was lifted by the chin. "Look, the person you like is really spineless. My things are not allowed to be coveted by others. Aurora, you can only be mine." The heavy rain washed down, and everything before my eyes was gloomy, but I was powerless to resist. I have been sitting in a wheelchair for 5 years. In 5 years, I have learned to smile obediently at Ashton and please him carefully. He held me in his arms. "Aurora, we will go abroad to cure your legs and then have a child after some time. Okay?" I nodded obediently. The once proud Aurora had been broken piece by him. Now only an empty shell remains. He pinched my face. "Smile wider." I enlarged my smile like an obedient doll, and he kissed the corner of my mouth. "I like you like this the most. Be good and stay at home. I have some things to deal with." I stared blankly as he walked out of the room in a suit. Ada. The nanny at home hurried over. "Madam, what's the matter?" "I want to call Ashton." "Go and bring me the phone." She looked conflicted. "I just want to make a call." "You can watch by the side." After a long while of hesitation, she brought me the phone. I held my breath and slowly pressed the number hidden deep in my heart. "Hello?" Hearing Liam's voice, my nose soured and tears almost fell. "Haven't seen you in 4 years. Are you okay?" I was choked with words and couldn't say a word. The noisy music on the other side sounded, and I heard the voice of Ashton's friend. Instantly, I felt a chill all over. I hurriedly hung up the phone and sat in the wheelchair in a daze. "Ella, I want to eat double-cooked pork. Hurry up and make it." "Okay." I pushed the wheelchair slowly into the bathroom and closed the door. In 4 years, Liam may have forgotten me. I closed my eyes tightly and hit my numb legs hard. My heart was filled with dead silence. My initial collapse and despair emerged in my mind. My face was covered with tears. Now I am numb and used to it. I laughed out loud and found the fruit knife hidden inside the cabinet. There is nothing in this world worth my nostalgia. Goodbye, Liam. When I opened my eyes again, I saw my mother take out a white dress from the closet and hand it to me. "Tomorrow is the birthday of young Master Ashton. Remember to wear this. This one is beautiful." I stared at the white gauze dress and clenched my palm. I seemed to be reborn? But before I could feel joy, I was attracted by the white gauze dress in front of me. This is the beginning of my nightmare. In my previous life, I listened to my mother and wore this white dress to attend Ashton's birthday party. On that day, he fell in love with my face at first sight. And in order to please Ashton, my brother drugged me and sent me to Ashton's bed. He forced Ashton to marry me on the grounds that my innocence was destroyed. I trembled and took the white gauze dress with both hands, holding back my tears. "I know, Mom." My mother patted my head and said earnestly, "You are the younger sister. You should also think more about your brother. In the future, after you get married, you still have to rely on your brother, your family member, to support you." My body stiffened, and I forced a smile. Yes. In my mother's eyes, I am just a tool like younger sister and should think about everything for my brother. After all, in her opinion, I am inferior to Alexander in everything. That night, I secretly ate peanuts and broke out in rashes all over my body, including my face. When my mother saw me like this, she slapped me. "Aurora, did you do this on purpose?" There was fire in her eyes, and she used 80% of her strength. My cheek was burning with pain, but I still held back tears and pretended to be pitiful. "Mom, I don't know why this happened. What should we do now?" Her expression turned cold. "Even if you are allergic, you still have to go. I am just a housekeeper aunt at Ashton's house. Do you know how important it is for your brother to climb up to Ashton's family?" I wanted to ask loudly, "So what? Did you deliberately send me to Ashton?" I shed tears and pitifully coquettishly said, "I'm sorry, Mom. I really don't know why this happened. She was stunned and sighed. You must also explain clearly to young Master Ashton with tears like this later. Do you understand? I was stunned and trembled all over. Yes, how could I forget? In 5 years, I had been trained by Ashton to every expression and smile in line with his preferences. I froze the smile at the corner of my mouth. I know, Mom. Alexander was dressed very luxuriously, wearing all luxury goods. My mother really spared no expense. Hey, Aurora, what's wrong with your face? I slowly wiped away my tears and gave a bleak smile. It seems I'm allergic. I don't know either. Brother, will I be kicked out of Ashton's house like this? He frowned slightly, and a trace of impatience flashed across his handsome face. It's okay. Follow me later. Young Master Ashton has wanted to see you for a long time. I bit my lip until it almost bled. No wonder Ashton would like the daughter of an insignificant housekeeper aunt like me. It turns out that my good brother has been fueling the flames all along. I hid the hatred in my eyes and nodded. Today is Ashton's 22nd birthday. It is extremely luxurious. Almost all the people who come are young masters and ladies from wealthy families. I followed my brother into the living room. Master Ashton, I bring my younger sister to see you. Ashton was dressed in a black suit and leaning against the stairs on the second floor. His whole being exuded laziness and nobility. His gaze collided with mine. My heart pounded wildly and subconsciously I wanted to run away. But it seemed as if nails had grown under my feet, keeping me rooted to the spot. My elder brother gave me a push and I staggered forward a few steps. Ashton, Master Ashton. He twirled the wine glass in his hand and glanced at me with raised eyebrows. Your eyes are really beautiful. I froze all over and cold sweat crept up my spine. My elder brother grabbed my wrist and walked towards Ashton. Master Ashton, this is my younger sister Aurora. She is a bit shy. When she sees you, her ears turn red with shyness. I was stunned and hurriedly explained, no. Ashton signaled to his assistant beside him. After a while, the assistant brought something. Here you are. I didn't dare to take it. I can't. My elder brother took it quickly and opened it. Inside were a pair of pearl earrings. So beautiful. Thank you, Master Ashton. My younger sister is shy and embarrassed. I broke free from his hand and shouted angrily. I said, I don't need it. Ashton was stunned. His amber eyes were as deep as a cold pool and the corner of his mouth curved into a careless smile. I turned and left, sitting idly in a corner and opening the camera on my phone uncertainly. My fair face was covered with countless rashes, looking rather disgusting. In this way, he should not fall in love with this face at first sight. My elder brother found me, and there was obvious anger in his eyes. Aurora, what temper are you throwing? Can you refute Master Ashton? Do you know how many people are scrambling to curry favor with him? I sneered. Oh. He handed me 2 glasses of wine. Go and apologize to Master Ashton. My heart sank. So soon he wants to send me to his bed? I picked up the wine glass on the table. Let's go. He stopped me. Ashton doesn't like this whiskey. He only likes the wine in my hand. Ashton's favorite drink is whiskey. He even bought a winery where all his favorite wines are stored. I put down the whiskey and picked up a glass of wine. Take what's in my hand. I slowly took it. In my hand, both glasses were spiked with something. Alexander took another glass of wine himself. I couldn't help sneering in my heart. Passing by the living room, I panicked and grabbed my elder brother's sleeve. Ah, brother, there seems to be something on the back of my skirt. Take a closer look. He frowned and put down the wine glass in his hand. I took the opportunity to switch the spiked wine with his. There's nothing. Let's go quickly. Ashton was chatting and laughing with several people. My elder brother took me to apologize to him. Ashton, just now my younger sister was wayward. She apologizes to you. I lowered my head and said in a low voice, I'm sorry, Ashton. Just now I was too wayward. This glass of wine is for you. He took the wine in my hand and a trace of displeasure flashed in his eyes. I pretended not to see it and looked at him with a smile. My elder brother chimed in, yes, Ashton. My younger sister didn't mean it. She is just timid because she has never seen a big scene before. Ashton took a sip. My elder brother hurriedly pulled me to drink together. My gaze fell on my elder brother's wine glass and watched as he drank it up completely. Since you like Ashton so much, then give yourself to him. A few minutes later, I pretended to be dizzy. Brother, I'm a bit hot and dizzy. I want to rest. I grabbed my elder brother's arm. He suppressed his excitement and his tone was urgent. Younger sister, I'll take you to rest. Ashton followed behind. After entering the room, Alexander fell on the bed, writhing all over and his eyes full of longing. So hot. At this time, Ashton's drug should also take effect. I left Alexander and walked out of the room alone and poured a glass of water. After a while, I pressed against the door and heard the commotion inside. The battle is very intense. I eavesdropped with great interest. Suddenly someone behind me called me. Aurora, what are you doing? My body stiffened. This voice seemed to be Ashton's. Isn't he inside? I turned my head woodenly. Ashton stared at me with amusement. You. I was a bit at a loss. Countless thoughts flashed through my mind. Could it be that there was no drug in his wine? Or was it that in my previous life only my wine glass was spiked and his consciousness was always clear? I clenched my palm and forced an awkward smile. I'm sorry, Ashton. My elder brother is not available now. Ashton's eyes darkened slightly and he slowly approached me. The faint smell of alcohol drifted into my nose, making my nerves tense. He laughed. Aurora? Can I call you that? I was stunned and reacted after a moment. This is not very convenient, after all, we just met. Really? He drew out his words and looked down at me condescendingly. His pitch-black eyes were like a deep pool that seemed to suck me in and drown me. I actually wanted to retreat disgracefully. Yes, this is our first meeting. He tugged at his tie impatiently and blew a breath by my ear. Really? Aurora. The familiar tone made me tremble all over. Could it be that he was reborn like me? My face instantly turned pale. Ashton. He pinched my earlobe and his tone was uncompromising. Next time we meet, I hope you can wear the pearl earrings I gave you. I inexplicably breathed a sigh of relief. In the previous life, Ashton hated it the most when I wore pearl earrings. When asked why, he would only frown and say, "It's ugly and doesn't suit you." Okay. However, my brother is not available now. There are other people in the room besides my brother. My face suddenly flushed, pretending not to know. Ashton tapped 3 times lightly on the wall with his finger, and then smiled at me. Aurora must be hungry. Let me take you to eat something. I subconsciously followed behind him. Passing through the hall, a voice interrupted my train of thought. Aurora. Liam ran to my side and wanted to hold my hand. I quickly dodged. Who is this? Ashton's eyes grew cold, but he smiled innocently. Oh, this is my high school classmate, Liam. Liam's clean face was filled with a bright smile, not at all looking like the defeated and distressed look he would have in the future when being suppressed by Ashton. He called my name a little aggrievedly, Aurora. My nose soured, and I felt sorry for him. Liam, aren't you going to your hometown? Why are you here? It was not long after summer vacation. Liam was going to his hometown to visit his grandparents. He awkwardly touched his nose. They don't need me there. Ashton casually picked up a glass of whiskey and handed it to me. Drink? I blinked in shock because Ashton seldom used an interrogative tone with me. No. Ashton, I have some things to do and need to leave for a while. After saying that, I pulled Liam and walked to the garden. You. He couldn't wait to hug me. Aurora, I miss you so much. Looking into his eyes filled with stars, my mouth was as sour as if there was a plum in it. I miss you too. Liam touched my cheek, his eyes full of distress. Is your face allergic to eating peanuts by accident? I'll go to the pharmacy to buy you some anti-allergy medicine later. Next time I'll pay more attention to those foods containing peanuts. My tears silently fell. Yes. Liam. I burst into laughter through tears and pinched his hand. You deliberately showed up, right? In my previous life, after I got drunk and dizzy, I didn't see Liam coming either. Perhaps we missed each other at that time. He pursed his lips. No. I'll go to the pharmacy to buy some medicine first. Wait for me. As I watched his gradually receding back, I didn't even know when Ashton was standing next to me. Your boyfriend? I was so startled that I almost exclaimed. No. Why are you here? He shook the wine glass in his hand and looked at me with a smile. I've been on the second floor and just came down. What's wrong? So he saw everything. My hand trembled imperceptibly, and fine beads of sweat appeared on my forehead. Nothing. Nothing. I think it's time to go home now. He held my hand, and a hint of mischief flashed in his eyes. Well, so your face was deliberately done. Are you so afraid of me? I was on the verge of tears and my mind went blank with anxiety. No. No. But I feel like we've known each other for a long time and our relationship is beyond that of ordinary friends. My heart rose to my throat, and I couldn't help but shiver. You. He chuckled and released my hand. Go back, Aurora. See you next time. I walked out of Ashton's house in fear and met Liam at the next intersection. Aurora, over here. We looked at each other across the road with passing vehicles. In my mind, the image of him kneeling in the heavy rain with a pale face emerged. Over and over again, he shouted humiliatingly, Liam is a lowly dog. If I really can't escape Ashton's control, should I let go of Liam so that he can have a better life? What's wrong with you? I hugged him, shook my head, and couldn't stop sobbing. Nothing. I'm just very happy to see you. Happy that he is very young and full of vigor now, not at all like the later him who was ground down by Ashton and had dim eyes. I broke free from his embrace. Liam, treat me to ice cream. He held my hand. Sure. Liam bought me chocolate-flavored ice cream, and his own was matcha-flavored. Before I could sigh with emotion, I received a call from my brother. He shouted in despair, Aurora, what have you done? Why is there a man on my bed? Come back here right now. I explained in a soft voice, brother, Ashton told me not to disturb you and said you have important things to do. That's why I. Come back here right now. I hung up the phone and regretted the ice cream in my hand. My brother is looking for me. I'll go and see first. Liam stared at me worriedly. I'll go with you. I shook my head. I have to solve this matter by myself. Back at Ashton's house. More than half of the guests had left. Ashton had also changed into casual clothes and was sitting leisurely on the sofa. My brother was sitting opposite with a gloomy face. I pretended to be in a hurry and ran over. Brother, are you okay? As soon as I finished speaking, his slap landed on my face. It was even harder than my mother's slap in the morning. My face instantly swelled up red and tears streamed down unstoppably. Brother, what are you doing? Ashton frowned and his voice was cold. Alexander, do you want to die? My brother's furious momentum instantly subsided. Hey! You! He pointed at my nose. He didn't dare to say that I had harmed him. After all, I didn't know there was something in the wine. I was called out by Ashton at that time and didn't know the situation. If you want to blame me, then blame me. I pretended to be a crying little innocent flower. The guests nearby whispered and criticized Alexander. He was so angry that he turned around and ran out of Ashton's house. Ashton handed me an ice pack and narrowed his eyes slightly. Your methods are still too immature. I was shocked and gave him an innocent smile. His finger brushed the corner of my eye and wiped away my tears. With a coaxing tone, he said, I'll teach you next time. My hand paused. I felt that Ashton was a bit strange. Come to think of it, all these methods of mine were told to me by him. Aurora, I seem to like you. His eyes were serious and there was no trace of joking. My heart tightened. I said jokingly, the people who like me line up all the way to France. He crossed his legs and looked lazy. Oh, I didn't dare to delay. There was still a fierce battle to be fought at home. I'll go home first. Ashton grabbed my hand. His fingertip brushed against my palm, making it a bit itchy. Using me comes at a price, Aurora. I nervously swallowed and chose to avoid. I'll go home first. I walked out of Ashton's house in a sorry state. I secretly thought that I couldn't have anything to do with Ashton anymore in the future. As soon as I reached the door of my house, a bowl was thrown out and smashed at my feet. "How dare you come back?" I stared at my furious brother in front of me and pulled out an innocent smile. "What's wrong, brother? Didn't you just have a poor tolerance for alcohol and feel sleepy?" He raised his fist to hit me, but my mother stopped him. "Alexander, she is your sister." I kicked away the broken bowl pieces at my feet. "Mom, Ashton praised me today." As soon as my mother heard this, she immediately came over kindly and patted my head, and probed slowly. "What else did Ashton say?" I frowned and thought. "He said that he hopes to see me again next time." As soon as I finished speaking, my mother immediately beamed with joy. "It's okay. Come in quickly." Alexander stood like a wall of flesh at the door, his chest heaving up and down violently. I thought of the intense battle inside the house again. I didn't know whether he was on top or below. I deliberately said in a sarcastic tone, "Brother, did you encounter something that made you so angry?" Alexander's face flushed red and he held his breath. No. I nodded indifferently. "Mom, my brother slapped me in public today and embarrassed me. I don't know what Ashton will think." After leaving this sentence, I immediately ran back to my bedroom aggrieved. After a while, the quarrel between my mother and my brother could be heard outside. I happily opened my phone and received a friend request from Ashton. My heart suddenly sank to the bottom. I planned to pretend not to see it and perfunctorily deal with it after the message expired. But at this moment, Ashton's call came in. "Aurora, there is a drinking party the day after tomorrow. Come with me. I will send someone to pick you up. And remember to accept the friend request." I had no choice but to reluctantly agree. He clicked his tongue. "What? Missing your little boyfriend?" I hurriedly retorted, "Liam is not my boyfriend." As soon as I finished speaking, Ashton's ambiguous tone rang in my ear. "Do you know who I'm talking about?" My pupils shrank slightly. I was annoyed that I had fallen into his language trap again. "I'll hang up first. There's something going on at home." I lay on the bed and my thoughts drifted back to my previous life. In my previous life, Ashton didn't sign the marriage agreement immediately. Instead, he kept me by his side and asked about everything. He almost didn't let me have contact with my mother. I couldn't stand his perverted possessiveness and tried to escape many times. Unsurprisingly, I could always be caught by him. "Aurora, you will never escape from my palm." Thinking of this sentence, I still couldn't stop shivering. My heart seemed to be slightly numb and stinging as if bitten by ants. And those legs. I wiped away my tears, opened the WeChat conversation box with Liam, deleted and added words and then retracted my typing hand. "Aurora, did Ashton say anything else?" My mother suddenly pushed the door open and came in, accompanied by my brother's murderous look. "Ashton asked me to accompany him to the drinking party." My mother smiled obsequiously. "Mom will help you get everything ready then. You must build a good relationship with Ashton." I responded coldly with a sound. These 2 days, I had been thinking about how to break up peacefully with Liam. In my previous life, I liked him and naively thought that I could escape from Ashton's palm. I always had a glimmer of delusion. Until later, I completely disappeared from his world. A few years later, he seemed to be in the same circle as Ashton again. I took a deep breath and calmed the struggle inside me. "Aurora, come down." It was a message from Ashton. I looked at myself in the mirror. I was beautiful and refined, with a jade-like complexion. I put on a smile and walked out of the room. A black Maybach was parked downstairs. "Get in." I sat next to Ashton without saying a word. "At the drinking party later, if you don't want to drink, tell me." I stared out of the window absent-mindedly and responded with a sound. Suddenly, my heart skipped a beat. Perhaps the 22-year-old Ashton wasn't as ruthless as the 25-year-old. "What would you do if the person you like doesn't like you?" His eyes reflected my appearance, and then the corner of his mouth curled up into a sinister smile. "Naturally, keep them by my side." I wasn't at all surprised by his answer. Ashton raised his hand, and his slightly cool fingertip brushed across my palm. Aurora, would you? I pursed my lips slightly, paused, and said, perhaps. Suddenly, he pulled me and gently pressed a kiss on me. My hand intertwined with his fingers. The atmosphere became increasingly ambiguous, and a layer of panic arose in my heart. Ashton. After all, he is young. His kissing skills are still rather green, completely lacking the feeling of making one go weak in the future. I pushed him away and tried to calm my abnormal heartbeat. His low panting sounded faintly by my ear. Dark tides surged in his eyes like a cold pool. Aurora, don't even think about escaping. The palm around my waist was burning hot, making me lose my concentration. When I wasn't paying attention, he leaned in and kissed me again. Are you looking down on me? He said it through gritted teeth, which actually made me find it amusing. I raised an eyebrow. My tone was extremely provoking. Compared to my ex-boyfriend, you are really much worse, Ashton. He was slightly stunned and pinched my face in dissatisfaction. Really? I nodded in a good mood. His fingertip touched my earlobe and immediately let go. His eyes darkened slightly. You will see in the future. I turned my head and glanced at him, secretly grumbling. Sure enough, the 22-year-old Ashton is not very composed. If I run away, will there still be a chance? In the future, when I return to school and he can't see me, he will probably gradually forget me. A glimmer of joy welled up in my heart. I didn't want to go to any cocktail party with him either. I just wanted to find an opportunity to escape. I stared at our intertwined fingers and couldn't help sighing. Forget it. Endure it for a while. I thought it would be in a hotel, but it turned out to be a bar. Let's go. He firmly held my hand and entered the private room without giving me a chance to refuse. The gazes of several people in the room all fell on me, filled with curiosity and a hint of hostility. I wore a smile on my lips and looked around. There were several familiar faces. Ashton led me to take a seat. This is my girlfriend, Aurora. After I greeted them, I followed the hostile gaze. It was Quincy, Ashton's friend who appeared in Liam's call in my previous life. Among the 4 people present, almost all are friends who grew up with Ashton. Sister-in-law. The flamboyant red-haired guy, Seraphine, shouted at me. I immediately denied it. I'm not. Halfway through speaking, Ashton took over the words. Today is just a gathering. I'll formally introduce you to them later. I turned my head and glanced at him, then broke free from his hand. I'll go to the restroom first. After saying that, I got up, opened the door, and went out. Just after washing my hands, I planned to leave the bar. When I went out, I found Ashton waiting for me. He slowly exhaled a puff of smoke. The white smoke obscured his expression. Aurora, let's go. I spread out my hands. With the experience from my previous life, I had the thought of being unable to resist. Ashton took my hand, and a hint of a smile flashed in his eyes. Aurora, your little tricks are really childish. My body stiffened. The familiarity of his tone rushed over. In my previous life, after he caught me for the first time when I tried to escape, he had the same cruel tone. It was as if he was saying an unchangeable fact forever. And as he said, I couldn't escape him. I tried all means. In the end, I could only choose to compromise. I want to go back. He raised an eyebrow slightly and narrowed his eyes. You really hate me, Ashton said to himself. From the first time we met, there was fear and some dislike in your eyes. Have we met before? My cheeks slowly lost their color. I couldn't move my legs at all. We haven't met. Suddenly, he picked me up and pressed me against the wall to kiss. Are you crazy? Let me go. Ashton licked a small mole by my lips. The familiar feeling came like a tide, making me greatly shocked. My hands gradually lost strength. Ashton. My voice was tinged with a sob. Only then did he release me. You. I stared into his eyes looking for different emotions. Maybe he was really reborn. This kiss was his favorite action in the previous life. Aurora, let's go. I followed him back to the private room in a daze. After a moment of silence in the private room, it became lively again. Young Master Ashton, let's play truth or dare. I suddenly looked up. Okay. Ashton tightly grasped my wrist. A light blush spread on my skin. I was forcefully pulled to Ashton's side. Aurora, be obedient. I seemed to be a prey falling into his trap. Resistance was also a dying struggle. Sister-in-law, you go first. The empty whiskey bottle was placed in front of me. I pretended to be calm and spun the bottle, staring intently at the bottle mouth. When it turned towards Ashton, I was about to breathe a sigh of relief, but it shifted a bit again and pointed directly at me. Hey Aurora, truth or dare? All eyes were on me. I had no choice but to answer with a stiff upper lip. I choose dare. However, I drew out the one I least wanted from a pile of cards, kissing a member of the opposite sex for 3 minutes. The card in my hand was almost crushed by me. Drink 5 glasses of wine. After saying that, I hurriedly threw away the card and stepped on it. 5 glasses of wine were poured on the table. Ashton's teasing gaze met mine, and my heart missed a beat. I drank the wine blindly. Tears blurred my vision. Aurora. I actually had auditory hallucinations and heard Liam calling my name. Again? I nodded in a fit of peakishly. Again. I turned the wine bottle again, waiting for it to point to Ashton, but it stopped in front of me again. Ashton pulled me into his arms. The slightly cool smell of alcohol intertwined with his breath. Scorching hot. Uncomfortable. I subconsciously remembered relying on alcohol to numb my nerves before. At that time, I had just lost feeling in my leg. I kept standing up over and over again, unwilling to give up, delusionally thinking I could walk. But in the end, I always fell to the ground and had to crawl on my hands to stand up. I was still immersed in the memories of my previous life when a cold hand touched the back of my neck. Ashton. A kiss full of the smell of alcohol landed on my lips. I was so weak that I couldn't exert any strength. I leaned weakly against him. I've seen the card you threw away. Are you so resistant to kissing me? Aurora, have you grown some courage? My heart sank and I opened my eyes with difficulty. Ashton raised his tone. You actually dare to drink? I was shocked. You. Has Ashton been reborn too? I widened my eyes. All I could think about was that Ashton seemed to have been reborn too. Aurora, drinking behind my back. Are you courting death? Fear began to spread from my heart. I sniffed and took the initiative to put my arms around his neck. This is my usual way of acting coquettishly. Suddenly, he picked me up and walked out of the private room and into his exclusive suite. Who gave you the courage to die? Our lips and teeth intertwined, and my lips ached faintly. I felt a chill all over. I looked up and accepted his kiss. Ashton, don't. Kiss here. He kissed my cheek, and there were glistening tears in his eyes. Going to find Liam after you die, right? Do you know that when I just said one sentence that the Ashton family is willing to reach a business cooperation with the Liam family, he never mentioned you again. The first love you thought you could hold hands with is just SOSO. His voice was sarcastic and his chest heaved violently. All the unfinished words were swallowed by him. It seemed to be raining outside. The sound of thunder intertwined with my heartbeat. In a trance, I remembered the day Liam saved me. I finally found an opportunity to make an appointment with Liam to leave. Shortly after we walked out of the villa, the heavy rain fell and soaked our clothes. Although I was tightly wrapped in Liam's coat, there was still a hint of coldness. Liam. He rubbed my hands to pass on warmth. It's okay. Let's hurry. I chuckled and some of my depressed mood dissipated. But just as we reached the road, a black car stopped in front of me and blocked our way. Fiancé, where are you going? Ashton's eyes full of a smile stared at me, gentle and affectionate. The upturned corner of his mouth revealed a hint of anger. Ashton. Liam stood in front of me and tightly protected me. Ashton, she doesn't like you. Why bother? Ashton slowly got out of the car and held a black umbrella. I want her to say it herself. I lowered my head guiltily and tugged at Liam's clothes corner. Aurora, tell him that you don't like him. The scrutinizing gazes of the two fell on me. At first, it was just an accident. Ashton, Ashton's face quickly darkened. The rain fell on my face. I wiped it off randomly and mustered up my courage to finish what I wanted to say. Mr. Ashton, you heard it too. Aurora doesn't like you. I like her enough. I widened my eyes behind Liam and couldn't believe that he would fall in love with me. Obviously, I'm not outstanding. How could he notice me who is so inconspicuous? Liam laughed angrily. Who would believe that? Aurora, don't force me. I trembled all over. Remembering my brother's advice, our family simply can't afford to offend the Ashton family. The Ashton family can easily bring ruin to the Aurora family with a little trick. I walked out from behind Liam in panic and moved to Ashton. I'll go back with you. Ashton curved his lips slightly and took my cold hand. Aurora, come here. I felt a bitterness in my heart and a hint of guilt arose when I thought of my brother and my mother. Liam grabbed my wrist and shouted in exasperation, Aurora, are you crazy? Is it so happy to be kept by him like a canary? As soon as my tears flowed out, Ashton had already wiped away the tears with his fingertips. Why are you crying? His eyes were full of heartache. Staring at my face, it made me feel amused. I let out a breath. Let's go. He doesn't know anything. I turned and walked towards the villa. Ashton's expression was indifferent and he said indifferently, Aurora, how many times is this? I paused. I also forgot how many times it was that I tried to escape. Do I have to break your legs so that you won't leave? I hugged Ashton's waist in horror and acted coquettishly. It's a little flirtation. He stroked my head as if smoothing the fur of a cat. Aurora, don't think about leaving me. No, next time. Forget it. He hesitated to speak, making my heart uneasy and feeling like it could fall into an abyss at any moment. I stood on tiptoe and kissed his lips. Don't mention him. I only like you. Behind me, Liam shouted, Aurora, I know you have difficulties. I will definitely help you. I turned to look at him, and my memory began to blur. With a clap of thunder, I suddenly woke up. A big palm on my waist restrained me. I never expected that Ashton was also reborn. Ashton was close to my back, murmuring Aurora, Aurora, over and over again. I turned around and looked into his eyes, and my palm felt a little numb. Ashton. I won't force you anymore. You can do whatever you want as long as you don't leave me. I was a little surprised. His fingertips traced the outline of my face, and he cried while smiling. Aurora, this is our 8th year together. I knew that I could never escape from his control again. Exhausted both physically and mentally, I returned home. Alexander greeted me obsequiously. Sister, how are you and young Master Ashton? Will he be my brother-in-law in the future? I sneered twice. No, brother. His face instantly turned ashen, showing signs of getting angry. Aurora. Enough. Am I your sister or a tool for you to climb up to the Ashton family? I stared at him directly, unable to hide my hatred. If it weren't for the Ashton family, I would never have had an intersection with Ashton. Nor would I be trapped by Ashton's side for a lifetime, waiting for him to tire of me. You did it on purpose, didn't you? I nodded casually and raised my eyebrows proudly. Yes. So what? Alexander raised his hand but restrained himself and put it down. Do you have evidence in your hand? Yes. You'd better not provoke me. I turned and went back to my room. Those were all bluffs. I still don't know who I was with at that time. Which man would like him? I turned on my phone, and on the hot search was Ashton's young master posts on Weibo. Inside was a glaring photo with the caption, My Kitten. It was a black and white photo of me lying on his chest sideways wearing pearl earrings. I gave a sarcastic smile. Aurora, is this you? A WeChat message from Liam popped up on the screen. I clicked on it with trembling fingertips. The screenshot he sent was exactly Ashton's Weibo post. Yes, Liam. I've fallen in love with someone else. Let's break up. After typing these words, I turned off my phone. The whole person buried myself in the quilt. Suffocation wrapped around me, but it gave me a hint of security. After waking up groggily, I walked out of the room. Ashton was sitting on the sofa. When he saw me come out, his eyes lit up slightly. I've come to pick you up and take you home. I inexplicably felt relieved. It was as if I was sure that he had returned after being reborn. Everything was back to the original state, and I was still his canary. I rubbed my eyes. Let's go. I followed Ashton back to the villa where we used to live. Even the nanny was Ella. I remember you like the sweet and sour pork made by Ella very much. Do you want to eat it tonight? His question made me feel creepy and strange. I was very unaccustomed to Ashton, who would ask for my opinion now. Can you be normal? He was stunned and said to me with a smile, I am very normal, Aurora. I turned and went back to the bedroom. Ashton packed up my things for me. Aurora, do you like boys or girls? I had never thought about this question, so I remained silent. Aurora, what are you thinking? Aurora, what color do you like? How about we redecorate the bedroom? I was annoyed by his constant chatter in my ear and threw a pillow at him. Whatever. I want to sleep. The gaze from behind was always on me. Aurora, we will be together forever. He murmured softly, like whispering love words. But to me, it was the most malicious curse in the world. A month later, I gradually got used to the clingy Ashton. He was like a dog's skin plaster that couldn't be shaken off. Aurora, Liam sent me a wedding invitation. Do you want to go together? My hand paused, and I pretended to be calm and ate fruit. Do you want to go? I looked up and met his calculating eyes. Ashton's mouth curled up slightly, seeming to be in a good mood. I have business dealings with Liam's family. As my fiancé, you should go with me. I coldly said oh and continued to eat fruit with my head down. My heart constricted, and the pain made it difficult to breathe. But I also know that this is the best way. On the day of the wedding, I went to the hotel where the wedding was held with Ashton on my arm. Liam was in a black suit, tall and straight. He looked over here. I quickly lowered my head and pinched Ashton's arm with my fingers. Aurora. I looked up in a panic. Ashton took my hand. Let's go. The one who has an alliance through marriage with him is Miss Noah. Speaking of which, they are childhood sweethearts. Do you know that? I shook my head. In an instant, I heard the master of ceremonies say, the bride is coming. I turned my head to look. Noah, bathed in light, was wearing a pure white wedding dress and looking at Liam with a lively smile. I watched as Liam reached out and firmly held her hand. The two walked hand in hand to the master of ceremonies. The noisy sounds around me disappeared. Liam's movements slowed down and my eyes, exchanging rings and kissing the bride. He piously put his arm around Noah's waist, kissed her with a flushed face, his eyes shining brightly with joy. I applauded along with the guests and congratulated him. Why are you crying? I'm happy. I wiped away my tears and smiled at Ashton. In fact, even if Liam didn't say it, I also knew that it was Ashton's doing. He wanted me to be completely disheartened. My heart ached densely. I hated Ashton to death. When I got married to Ashton, it caused a sensation throughout Jiangcheng. Reporters came to interview Ashton. They asked him what his thoughts were now that he and Miss Aurora had become an enviable couple. Ashton said 4 words with a smile on his face, my wish has been fulfilled. Many years later, reporters interviewed me again. They asked me if I would be sad in the future when Mr. Ashton died suddenly at work in the company. I held my daughter's hand and shed crocodile tears. Probably sad. After his death, my daughter and I inherited all his inheritance. But more importantly, my wish has been fulfilled. At Ashton's funeral, I replaced the SIM card that he had pulled out earlier. There were more than 100 missed calls and text messages from Liam. Aurora, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I pulled out the SIM card and threw it beside Ashton's tombstone. Fiona, let's go. Let's go home. The end. The end. The end. The end. The end.